Pritzker's, of course, talking out his rear end, trying to claim this violates the Constitution. Those things are left to the states, as you may know, and it's perfectly fine for us to do so.
We have this story from The Guardian. Texas senator asks FBI to help locate and arrest Democrats for leaving the state. John Cornyn ramps up gerrymandering showdown between lawmakers and Trump administration seeking GOP seats. You got to hand it to Texas. They tend to be the ones getting the ball rolling. You got Ken Paxton, you got Abbott. They're doing all right. Now, many people have complained about the actions Abbott has taken in the past, saying that he's largely still just helping Democrats. Maybe. But it does seem like on cultural issues, we got Missouri and we got Texas. Now, right now, the battle is raging on. Donald Trump has said maybe the FBI does need to get involved when asked about John Cornyn's call. Send in the feds to force these people back. But this is a state issue. It is a state issue. Now, the question is, do these Democrats who have fled Texas have the right to break quorum? For those that missed the story, the quick gist is this. The Republicans want to redistrict. Such a new redistricting could swing the state or could swing the Congress for Republicans by 5 seats. The new map would eliminate certain Democrat seats and create weight for Republicans in those districts. This would give Trump a massive advantage. The story is that Trump personally called and said, do the redistricting now. I need those seats for 2026. Democrats have said this is unconstitutional and that you're breaking the rules. It's not unconstitutional. It's not violating the law. It's just untoward. It is extremely rare that a redistricting happens mid-census. Like this, we're between 2 censuses. Censi? Whatever. And so they're saying it's unjust. Well, let's do this. I am going to bring in a rep from Texas, Briscoe Cain, who's going to break down for us exactly what's going on and the rules and their plans. Let me load this interview right now and get that show going. All right. Here we go. Loading it up. Looks like we are good. Let's hit it. All right. It looks like good, sir. Can you hear me?
I can. How's it going, Tim?
It's going pretty well. So you're a rep in the Texas House?
I am. Yes, sir.
Do you want to just give a quick introduction to who you are and your district and what you do?
Yeah, I've served 5 terms in the Texas House. I'm the chairman of the Texas House Freedom Caucus and represent a lot of the Port of Houston, which some people may not be familiar with, but we produce, I don't know, close to 90% of the jet fuel for the country. It's considered the largest manufacturing complex on Earth.
Wow.
So,
all right, let me just,
a good thing.
I'm going to jump straight to it. Should these Democrats who have fled your state be arrested for breaking quorum and fleeing?
Yeah, absolutely. Sooner than later. I'm a little irritated at leadership kind of dragging their feet, not doing it yet, right? They've given them till Friday. It's nonsense. Arrest them, bring them in. Because we only need 6, Tim.
You need
right?
6
we need
to come
100.
in.
We just need 6 more.
Wow.
Right? So we have 88 Republicans. So we need 12 Democrats. 6 are here. And, we can discuss that, right? I don't know if you may help the audience understand that we're one of 4 states. There were originally more than that have a 2/3 quorum requirement. That's 2/3 of the elected, right? So we have to have 100 to do business, and the Constitution needs to be amended, but to do so, we need 100. And the odds of any Democrats ever voting with us to do that is pretty low. But the purpose, the historical purpose of it, right, was our days of horseback and walking, And so if some state legislature was going to convene on a certain day, obviously you had to kind of wait, right? You couldn't plan your trip, like 7-8 days to the Capitol or something like that, right? Those days are gone. And I wish we would have listened to Madison, or at least it's said that Madison wrote, I believe it's Federalist 58, actually, where he points out, like, this is a bad idea. It will cause this folly. It would allow the minority to take over. And
right.
And it was a bit of an oversight, because if you take it to its extreme, does that mean they can just literally not show up on day 1 of a session and kill 2 years? Is the only thing is for them to face voters? Is that the only punishment? Of course not. That's ludicrous to think so.
No, let me ask you. There were civil arrest warrants that were issued, and so it's a confusing thing, because how could you arrest someone on a civil violation? Are there any long-term penalties beyond fines for these civil arrest warrants?
Yeah, there certainly. and there could be. So there's civil because, right, the Speaker of the House is not like a criminal magistrate, but they're legitimate arrest warrants. And it goes through the Sergeant at Arms, and then thankfully the governor is tasked DPS with assisting, and that includes the Texas Rangers. And sadly, though, the speaker kind of gave them till Friday. Look, I know of three that are in Houston right now that never left. Now, granted, it might look bad. These are some of our older folks, and the D's could probably make a heyday off of claiming that you arrested grandma, but grandma's not doing her job, and she should have none of the benefits of seniority or their extra money. We need to go after all of it. There's also things that look like bribery.
Yeah, it does. I mean, my understanding is that some of these members have been fundraising. There have been efforts to raise money on their behalf for this effort.
Exactly, man. I don't know if you want to. I can read you the statute if you're interested. I know
Yeah.
Kind of got time, but it's section 3602 of the Texas Penal Code. Look at the A. It says, "Person commits an offense if he intentionally or knowingly offers, confers, or agrees to confer on another, or solicits, accepts, or agrees to accept from another person any benefit as consideration for the recipient's decision, opinion, recommendation, vote, or other exercise of discretion as a public servant, party official, or voter." Some of this sounds like it might be on point, man.
So have there been fundraising efforts from these Democrats in this area?
Yeah, certainly so. In fact, I think recently Jasmine Crockett kind of got caught mentioning doing exactly that, not just fundraising, but helping to fund their lifestyle, to fund them there.
Wow.
They funded the private jet to help them leave, right? In exchange for their discretion not to be there, they got on private jets. And so that has to be reported.
Life's good,
you can't. I can't fly on a private jet without having to report that on my ethics expenditure. Okay, these are serious problems. And the fines are cool. I mean, we get paid, a handsome $700 a month for it.
Enough for a private jet.
$500 a day plus the cost of having to go get them.
Wow. So this is the weird thing to me. Any job on the planet, if you are called in by your boss for what is part of your job, part of your contract, and you go, "Nah, I'm hopping a private jet and leaving, and I won't be back," that's called quitting. So how is it that they have not vacated their seat by their own admission by saying we will not be present? I mean, they've publicly admitted this is what they're doing and why. Shouldn't that be statement enough to say we have vacated our seats?
Yeah, I think so. Of course, it's going to be left to the courts, and they're going to have to struggle with where's the line, right? We gave an extreme example earlier, like you could not show up for 2 years and literally prevent the legislature from doing anything. Well, that'd be weird if the only repercussion was the voters. It doesn't make sense. So where is it? Do you have to express some intent to return? Right now, they've expressed no present intent to come back, right? If you're like, "Hey, I'll be back in a few days," you go, "Okay, they haven't abandoned it."
Right.
Right now, they're like, "We're never coming back." Screw you guys. It sounds like abandonment, right? And so not only should they face, the repercussions from the voters at the ballot box, which the past two times, which is 2004, they broke quorum. They ran off to Oklahoma and in New Mexico. That was a redistricting year. When we came back, the Republican majority grew. After 2021, when they broke quorum, they went off to D.C. They were then nicknamed the Miller D's. That's because they had a 24-pack of Miller Lite there on the bus with them when they were leaving. And I'll remember this one well. That was actually my bill. I was the chairman of elections, and that was my bill when they walked off the floor that day. We grew the Republican majority after that as well, and some of them lost their seats, and we still did it anyways. And I think this time it's going to be even worse. Anybody who's paying attention to Texas politics may know that, right, our speaker was elected with a majority of the minority party. And so there's been a coalition speakership. And what they're doing now, I believe, is actually uniting the moderates and the conservatives in the House against them. And I think they've committed political suicide. They don't realize it. Because no longer, for a while, it was theory, rumored that in order for them to say, the speakers may be offering things, right, taking certain things off the table. Well, now they broke that. I mean, there's literally no reason for leadership to give them absolutely anything. We should shove it all down their throat when we get them back.
So on this bribery point, do you believe, based on what you've seen so far, that there should be criminal charges for bribery?
There should at least be a grand jury investigation.
Seems reasonable.
I can't speak to whether they've definitely done it. It's not my area of law. I mean, the plain reading of it kind of smells bad and looks wrong, and someone needs to investigate it.
Yeah, especially. Well, let me ask you now about the redistricting effort itself. The argument that's being made by Democrats, Governor J.B. Pritzker went on Colbert and said, Trump called Texas and said, I need 5 seats. It is exceedingly rare to have a redistricting in the middle of a decade before the census comes in, and that this violates the Voting Rights Act and the Constitution. So the first question is, why are you guys redistricting right now? And, what do you have to say about Pritzker's comments?
Yeah. Well, Pritzker's, of course, talking out his rear end, trying to claim this violates the Constitution. Those things are left to the states, as you may know, and it's perfectly fine for us to do so. In fact, there's a case out of Galveston County, and, it's the island down here on our coast, that allowed them to do a similar thing based on their redistricting. And so for some time now, we realized we could do that, and it was an opportunity. But also, the states change, not just because of the open border policies, but somewhat our good policies. We're attracting people from those states, and they're fleeing. And so to adjust for those demographics and that change, it would only make sense that we adjust our seats because we have our one man, one vote rule. And through an interpretation of some federal case law, the seats must be almost perfectly identical. We're meeting 766,987 people, plus one or minus one, right? So you've got to get perfect. And obviously, there needed to be an adjustment over the last 5 years from the 13 plus million illegals who've come, because right, it's not based on voters, it's based on population. At least that's the current interpretation of things. And look, I think we're here to correct unconstitutional gerrymandering and to correct those things to ensure fair representation. That's the idea.
But what triggered this? Was it really, Donald Trump calling and saying, what can we do in Texas? Or is this something that you guys have been planning?
I can't answer that.
Because you don't know, or you'll get in trouble.
This is going to be heavily litigated. I can just say that I had been talking about it for over a year with some other folks, that we were allowed to, at least because of this Galveston County case. Now, it doesn't mean they did it in response to me, but people were aware of the opportunity. Absolutely.
So what do you mean by opportunity? That sounds like it's political.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
The opportunity
to
to fix wrongs. It's an opportunity to fix wrongs, right? It's to fix racial gerrymandering. It's to fix the VRA and the requirements of it. Really, when you get to the heart of it, it's racist.
So explain that. What is that?
Yeah. I remember redistricting in 2021 when I was first running for state rep. There's a Freedman's town, an old Freedman's town in my district, or actually it's not in my district. It's carved out. You're going up the line. All of a sudden this box comes over and it goes up. And I remember being really excited that I could go and talk with these people. And then I realized they're not in the district. And I remember going, well, that looks like racial gerrymandering. They're carved out. Why? Federal law required them to be with their own people.
Wow.
It would have been illegal to put them in my district. And that's offensive. But that's what the VRA was requiring, right? And so this is an opportunity to correct some of those wrongs, that to allow for fair representation and to allow people to have, they call them communities of interest. Well, why not communities? Why not entire cities as opposed to this special class? It doesn't make sense. So yeah, that's what I think I mean.
And is that something that, I don't know if you would know this because you're in Texas, but is that affecting all states? You said it's a federal law?
You'll quote me on this one. There are still some states, generally in the South, that are under certain kind of these, what they call pre-clearance rules and stuff. And I'm not an expert on that, but
wow.
So it applies to some of us and not others.
It was funny because I've been hearing a lot of statements from Democrats where they keep saying majority minority districts. And I'm thinking to myself, what does that mean? It's like they're acting like there are two races, white and not white, right? So you say majority, was it majority minority?
Yeah, or you'll hear the word minority coalition, as if they own all people who aren't the same.
Right.
Right. And you hear it in their interviews. They're like black and brown. Like, it's so terrible. And I know, thank God, at least our generation, or at least people with moral clarity or intellectual honesty recognize that that's nonsense and it does nothing but harm and divide.
Yeah. So, I mean, what are people in these areas saying? That what I've heard is that there are districts that are Hispanic that voted for Trump, voted for Republicans, but are being forced through this racial gerrymandering to be in districts where they'll never have their voices heard, and it's going to go Democrat.
Yeah, bingo. I can think of a House district next to me. It's House District 144. Sadly, Republicans failed to put a candidate on the ballot, and Trump won it like 53%.
Wow.
It's a vastly majority Hispanic area.
Wow.
And he's still winning because conservatism speaks to them, right? For their opportunities and family values and just wanting government to get out of their lives.
Wait, you guys didn't have a Republican?
And that's why it's a winning message.
You guys didn't have a candidate for the House on the ballot in that district?
No.
So it just default Democrat?
Yeah.
Oh,
and
man.
so that's what they're complaining about. One of those seats, that seat would now be in what was Congressional District 9, at least proposed. That's why Al Green is freaking out, realizing he's about to be out of Congress. And that area that's currently represented by a Democrat state rep, the numbers say that's not it. You don't own those people.
I mean, Al Green shouldn't be in Congress as far as I'm concerned. When he wiggled his cane screaming at Trump during the State of the Union, the House tried to censure him, and Democrats swelled up in the well singing songs obstructing the censure of this guy. And it was only a censure. It is remarkable to me that over the past decade plus, Democrats have repeatedly across this country, either at the state level or the federal level, even city level, violated the law, broken the rules, but then act like it's an affront to them when Republicans say, oh, hey, look, this is legal and we can do this. They then accuse you of breaking the law.
That's right. I've seen you've been covering that, right? Showing the maps and things. You know, it's funny the states they flew off to. And they're probably all around. But right, you went to Boston, Massachusetts, 0 Republican congressional seats, even though I think Republicans performed 40% there.
Wow.
And they went to Illinois. Look at those.
Yep.
Republicans performed better there on the presidential election, but they gerrymandered the heck out of those things.
Yeah, Illinois is 44% Republican as a state, with 3 of 17 seats being Republican.
Bingo. You get it.
Yeah.
And when you look at our proposed map, they're much more concentrated. You don't see these crazy spider leg things. And I'll remind you, they're going to look weird, right? As I just mentioned, based on the population requirements that they be equal, people don't live in equal little squares, right? So you're going to have drawings that look funny. Just FYI, I know every time somebody thinks something doesn't look like a square, it must be quote unquote gerrymandering. But that's a legal term. Like gerrymandering is illegal. You know?
I think we covered this back in 21 or whenever the last redistricting was, because there was one district, I can't remember where it was. I think it's like in the Houston area or something. And it's like a weird U shape. And a lot of people were saying that's gerrymandering and gerrymandering is bad. But when you actually broke it down, it's because some of the areas that are covered, nobody lives in and has nothing to do with that community. So people assume that because the maps are drawn weird shapes, it means gerrymandering. No, gerrymandering is Illinois. East St. Louis stretches in this long strip up to Urbana for the express purpose of combining 2 liberal cities, and then everything in between, which is rural, has no voice. And so these people in Texas, these Texas Dems, they fly there. And Pritzker had the nerve to go on Colbert and say, one, as a joke, it was drawn up by kindergartners as if to downplay the fact that they've intentionally stolen seats from Republicans. But then he has the nerve to say, we will gerrymander more. Here's the funny thing. They can't. They literally could not do more than they've already done in a bunch of these states.
They get squeezed, nothing left out. Yeah, that's amazing.
Blood from a turnip. So do you think Abbott is prepared to call more sessions over and over and over again to get this job done? Or do you think Democrats might win this one?
No, absolutely. They're not going to win this one. And they lose every time afterwards. And I'm thankful for the governor standing up for the fight and being creative. You know, filing his petition to have the Supreme Court declare Gene Wu's seat vacant. Gene Wu's a Democrat from Houston. He's actually the chairman of the House Democrat Caucus. And, will it work? I don't know. But it's kind of like how Trump just is like, I got an idea. Let's go for it. You know, give it your best shot. Right? Don't just always count it out. And so that's a good thing.
He did declare that vacant?
Well, he's filed a writ with the Texas Supreme Court, seeking it to be declared vacant, and the Attorney General's also a few hours later filed a case, and that
All
was
right.
yesterday.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Well, how do you
I
think?
mean, the argument is you've abandoned your seat, right?
Yeah.
It's like if you didn't give a letter of resignation when you left a job, but you didn't show up to work for a week and no call, no show. They're kind of like, I think that guy quit. That's these circumstances, right? It's like, I have a feeling they quit. They're not planning to come back. I think we should go ahead and, declare their seat vacant, order a special election, which, by the way, could be a great opportunity for Republicans to maybe
Absolutely.
flip some seats for a little bit.
Well, where do you think the Supreme Court of Texas leans? You think they're going to go Republican or what?
I don't know what they'll do. I hope they will. I hope they'll follow the law. I of course I would like for them to side with me politically, but not at the expense of the integrity of the institution. That's far more important, right? That's the thing that I think separates us from the left is that process, right, matters, that law matters, that we still have that moral high ground. But I'm hopeful, and I'm actually in talks with a few of my colleagues on whether we're going to do some amicus letters and things advocating for it or explaining kind of the reasons, especially some of the historical context of why that quorum requirement's there. Because the Democrats are arguing like this is a legitimate procedure. It's not legitimate at all. It's pure obstructionism.
I'm sick of the politicking across the board, across the country. The purpose of the quorum, you already mentioned it, but back in the day when you're walking, the idea was, hey, if people aren't here, we don't want the minority rushing in and then passing bills against the will of the voters in the state. The quorum rule is basically to be fair, but it's being exploited by people who've lost the elections. That's it. Elections have consequences. So the politics here's my concern is the judges are going to be not weighing the law or the practical reality, but they'll be weighing the implications politically. And that's what we see over and over and over again way too often. It's simple. If you were judging this honestly, you'd say the quorum rule is not to be exploited to shut down Congress. You have every opportunity to be at your session and do your job that you agreed to do. And if you've chosen not to be there, there's some leeway, but after a few days, you have quit. You are no longer working that job. Vacated, done with it.
I would say in Texas, our judges are elected statewide. So they stand for election and they're not strangers to political pressures or name calling. And what I'm going to say is, I think our state judges, at least elected judges, kind of tend to stand up to political pressure a little better than the federal appointed guys, right? Who grew up in this bubble, have never been name called before, have never had anybody yell at them or send mail or put up billboards. Those dudes tend to kind of back down a lot easier than some of the elected ones. And so I think they'll do the right thing. Yeah.
I hope so. I mean, one thing we've seen over the past decade plus is the left has been particularly good at organizing pressure campaigns. So the real question for a lot of these elected officials and just judges in general, I mean, with all due respect to the Supreme Court, I think they've done pretty well recently, but you look at Amy Coney Barrett's rulings after someone actually tried to kill Brett Kavanaugh, they bend. There's
absolutely no doubt that federal judges do that.
Yep.
100%. I've talked with some buddies that do federal practice, and they've discussed that exact thing. That one, there needs to be a defense to it. Two, why aren't we doing the same thing to those guys, so at least their people, if it works, or at least if it's bad. But you're 100% right.
I'll put it this way. We had that famous court case, Texas v. Pennsylvania, back in 2021. I think end of 2020, 2021 over the election. Texas as a state arguing that other states violated the Constitution by altering the rules of federal elections without going through their state legislatures. And the Supreme Court, except for Alito and Thomas, said, nah, we're not even going to hear the argument, which is cowardice.
I mean, it drove me nuts. I was in Pennsylvania after the election, and the case, it was the Mike Kelly lawsuit. It's actually 5 Texans and 2 New Yorkers that came up with the idea, and we pitched it, and then eventually the big boys kind of stepped in. And it was that exact point, that you can't alter these things. In fact, what was fascinating is Pennsylvania's Constitution set forth when you could do mail-in balloting.
Yep.
And so they passed the thing to amend that Constitution. Now in Pennsylvania, in order to amend the Constitution, the resolution to do so has to pass in 2 consecutive sessions. So they hadn't done it yet. Like, it hadn't even gone to the voters, yet they still did it. And the Supreme Court totally dumped the bed.
Yep.
You weren't allowed to do that, man. Now, I don't know if the relief was viable, right? Is asking to toss the whole thing out. That may not be realistic, but they could at least said, hey, what y'all did was unconstitutional. At a minimum, just pointed out you weren't allowed to do that, right? That would have been great. Yet instead, they were cowards.
That's my concern across the board, right? I talked to a state prosecutor in West Virginia and a previous AG who's now governor, and I said, why aren't we seeing red states do what Democrats do in blue states? That is, bring charges against their political opponents for things in which charges are warranted. I don't want to see, some random Democrat charge on a fake charge like they did to Trump. But I'm saying with like the Clinton email server, for instance, was she campaigning at all in West Virginia? Yes, she was. Are there potential violations that the state? Of course they could find these violations. And everybody keeps asking why the federal government doesn't intervene when it's the states. The states could be doing a lot of this, and Texas has been doing that. Even right now, I see is what you guys are doing, often leading the charge in these challenges. But where are the rest of these Republican states to take any action?
I have no idea. I mean, one, we're blessed with that beautiful gold, it's actually black stuff that comes out of the ground that helps kind of fund our government and have the teams of lawyers. I do recognize not every state has the budget, right, that we have to put that team together and put those cases together. So sometimes you'll see us leading on that reason alone, right? Some people just literally can't afford it. And aside from the idea, and we talked about before, right, where the left, that is their religion, that's who they are. And I realize as conservatives, we have families and jobs. I've got 5 boys. We're homeschool family as well. It's right, wow. A single income earner, essentially having to work part-time with this other part-time gig. But if you're going to step into it, go full bore. Right? Don't do it halfway. I mean, be serious about it. Americans want fighters. We don't just want somebody to come up and vote. I mean, there was a mandate sent for us to fight back against the left's oppression. We have to. It's only a narrow amount of time.
With what we're seeing Democrats do in your state, saying they're not going to come back, Politico's reporting a fine of upwards of $400,000 per special session called by the governor, civil arrest warrants. I mean, it sounds like the only way this gets resolved is if the state is willing to actually enforce action against these Democrats, or at least take the if the courts don't say the seats are vacated, Democrats can just say, fine us, we don't care, and then you guys are just gridlocked.
Dude, you're so right. There has to be consequences. And I was only here for the 2021 quorum break, but after all of us kind of sit here for like 2.5 months doing nothing, waiting on them to return, right? Interrupting our lives and being away from whatever, right? And we signed up for it. I get that. I don't want to get a pity party. And they return. Essentially, it all went back to normal for most people. I mean, right. They still get tons of pork in the budget, way more than freaking Republicans. They still pass bills way more than Republicans. They still get to participate, get this session, their vice chairs with essentially the same powers, chairmanships. They get this money and they leave. And I hope it's different this time. I hope when they come back that all bets are off, that it unites actually the Republican caucus, and we stop even doing that. Because the excuse we hear all the time is, well, we have to do that because Texas has a 100 quorum requirement. Whatever, okay? Let's shove it down their throats. We elected this majority. That's all we need to pass bills. If they don't want to show up, well, they didn't show up, and we'll start vacating their seats, so they'll suffer consequences in the ballot box. I don't know why we're negotiating with them, though.
I think governor should just do it. If the courts drag their feet or play dirty games, we need men of action. We need people who are going to say, listen, I'm not playing this game where you can leave, violate the spirit of our laws and our goodwill to steal political power in this state and in this country anymore. So just say, nope, you know what you should do? Just pass the resolution without quorum. And the problem is very few people have the political will to even do it. Just do it. Let them sue you for violating quorum. Let them bring the fight to you instead of you having to bring the fight to them. Just do it.
Man, exactly. And right now, they won't even let us on the front mic to maybe even give a speech or talk about it because we don't have a quorum. I couldn't agree more, right? We should just do it anyways. See what they do about it. Yeah. Either way, it'll still be a great exercise. We can show that we're fighting for it because, man, it's tough, right? The legislature is unique. We get all the time like, well, why didn't you pass the bill? Just do it. And, that our system of government wasn't set up that way, right? The legislative branch is the most powerful branch. I mean, I'm going to blow up a myth real quick. We're not co-equal. Okay. Congress, the Texas House it was given gobs of power, right? Plenary power, meaning we can do anything we want unless prohibited in the Constitution. The other branches can only do what they're allowed to do, but we're restrained, right? I've got to convince the other chamber to agree. You got to get past a governor's veto or get to a governor's signature. It was made really hard to do. But there are people in positions that can do it without anyone else, right? And thankfully, the governor's going for that in the AG, but
well, we got limited time, but who's stopping you from just going to the floor?
Well, you know, you're going to love this one. The parliamentarian won't allow it.
But who cares?
Hey, I'm with you.
If I was speaker, I'd say that thank you for those words, parliamentarian. We're calling the session anyway. Goodbye.
Yeah. Last time we just went ahead and started having our own hearings informally, even if it wasn't part of a committee. I mean, there's no reason that, you know, just 10 or 12 legislators who feel like working just get together and talk about things.
We are human beings. What we say is what we do. And this idea that there is this structure in place by which Democrats can exploit it to stop us makes literally no sense. Well, I don't understand why it is Democrats can do things that break the Constitution and get away with it, and Republicans go, but a parliamentarian won't let us speak. Now, look, you know, without going in circles, were I in a position of power, I'd just be like, parliamentarian, you can leave. This is a formal session. It is official, and it is done. Bye. If the Democrats can break the rules, so can we. And they can bring it to court and challenge it. And then we'll see what happens. But I don't want to rant. I do appreciate you coming on. Is there anything else you wanted to add before we go that people should know?
No, I just hope some of my colleagues, you know, hear your words of encouragement and realize that there is more to be done. They don't have to just sit around and wait. But it's odd because it's almost like they're afraid of offending them because they want to work with them. They come back. I don't get it. If they were to tell their voters that, they'd be so pissed off. Like, oh, I'm nice to them because we got to get along. That's not what you said on the campaign trail.
Right.
I assure you of that. So thank you. We just need 6. You know, look, maybe if there's a couple of bubbles out there with some, you know, big pickup trucks, some Florida guys, some Georgia boys, just go find 6 of them and bring them back to Texas so we can get our job done. Right on. Rep Cain, thanks for joining me. I appreciate it. We'll see you next time. Adios. Take care. All right. I'm just going to say it one more time. I want people to do things. So that was Rep Briscoe Cain. Really appreciate him joining and explaining everything that's going on. We're going to get that raid going for you guys to go join our friend Russell Brand. But I got to say it one more time because this one just strikes at the heart, man. Democrats have decided in Texas, we will violate the spirit of the rules. Okay? They're exploiting the rules by breaking quorum. That was never the intent. They're willing to face arrest. They're willing to face fines for violations. They don't care that the Republicans threaten weight of law against them. We're the Republicans to say, we will play in kind. The session will happen without you. The quorum rule be damned because you broke it in the first place. Sue me. I'm not playing this game where I have to sue you. You sue me. I will do it anyway. You sue me. I'm sick of hearing these, but the speaker said no, or the parliamentarian said no. You think the Democrats cared when they broke quorum? No. They're challenging you to sue them. Let's play that game. My friends, we got Russell Brand gearing up to go live and carry on with the next, I believe it's Russell Brand. Let me make sure. Sometimes it changes, but it's usually Russell. And okay, so it's not Russell. Who do we got going up? I'm not sure. Let me see if we got any notifications. Nope. Russell is not live today, I believe. These things happen. But it looks like Viva Fry is. So we'll send you to hang out with Viva. Shout out to Viva Fry. We'll send everybody on their way to hang out with Viva. Big fan, good friend. Appreciate it. My friends, you can follow me on X and Instagram at Timcast. We, of course, have more segments coming up throughout the day. We're back at 8 p.m. for Timcast IRL. You don't want to miss it. More to come on this story. Really do appreciate you guys watching, but share the show if you really do appreciate it, because with the Rumble Morning lineup, we have become the top, not just us, but everybody. We're the top 10 live streams and news, and often the top 10 live streams for all content in an off-cycle year. This is not a political year, and thanks to you guys and your passion and you're willing to share, we are keeping the conversation going. So smash that like button, share the show. Thanks for hanging out. We'll see you all in the next segment.